This is the TSG Multimedia Podcast for May of 2022. We're sponsored this month by the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. Thank you very much. I'm your host, John Abaticola, and I'm back again with another monthly update. Before I get started, I want to wish a happy birthday to Goofy Gary, whose birthday was just a few days ago on the 4th. Happy birthday, Gary. All right, now let's get to our monthly update. Well, good morning. It's April 2nd, about 9:05 a.m., and we've driven out to the Western Railway Museum today to make a video about what it is and what they do here. They do a lot of really cool preservation work on historic trolleys, streetcars, trams, and the like. And they also have an old Western Pacific engine out here that they used to run a long time ago, a steam engine. And it just kind of sits here now. Maybe we'll see it, I don't know. But we're going to do a video about the Western Railway Museum today, and that'll be coming out on the channel sometime in the near future as part of the focus of, historic preservation, which is one of the things we focus on here. So it should be a good day. Let's go have some fun. So I'm sitting here in the lobby of the Western Railway Museum. It's still not open. They just turn the lights on, and they're these old lights that take a long time to warm up. But I wanted to mention this because this bench that I'm sitting on is actually an original Southern Pacific bench that came out of the 16th Street Station in Oakland. This is one of the things that you can see here. And as we're sitting here, or as I'm sitting here, we're talking and noticing that there are all kinds of signs up along near the ceiling, and there's just so much to see here. And from the moment you walk in, if you just look around. So I'm sitting here in a 1917 Pullman car that, honestly, I didn't even know was here, with our friend Eric Mensis. And I've told this story a number of times over the years about being out at the Nevada Northern in Ely. And at the end of the day, I was walking back to the depot. My feet were killing me. And the story goes that a guy walked up with a set of keys and said, "Hey, you want to see the inside of the electrical room?" And then the rest of the story is the electric room was this amazing time capsule of stuff. On the wall was a calendar from the week when the railroad shut down, and there were notes on it. Eric was the guy with the keys. And we haven't seen him in like almost 4 years. So thanks for having us, Eric. And I just wanted to have you on the podcast real quickly to talk about this video that we're doing today. Before we do, though, I know you've worked for other railroads, a lot of other railroads, before you ended up here. What's your experience been in the railroading business?
So I've been in the railroading business since 2008. I was a little kid in Chicago area growing up. And all I knew when I got out of high school is I wanted to go to Durango, Colorado. I did not know what to study, anything. I just wanted to do something in Durango because I loved the train. I ended up getting into the college there, bartended my way through college on the train.
You were a bartender on the Durango and Silverton?
I was a bartender on the Durango Silverton, along with other little retail stuff and stuff I could do while studying. Couldn't really do the train service stuff while studying, but it helped me get a degree in tourism management.
Oh, okay.
And so I got my degree. And then I've traveled a little bit because someone once told me is don't stay in one place to learn the experience of other places, and you'll work your way up. And that's exactly what I did. I've worked for the Skunk Train up here in Northern California. I've worked for the Nevada Northern and was Dirt's agent.
Right.
Dirt famous there. My biggest claim to fame is...
Yeah, so if you know Dirt from Ely, this is why you know Dirt from Ely.
This is why.
I know when we went there, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. When we went there, one of the first things that I wanted to do was go see Dirt. So,
oh yeah, And before that, at the skunk train, I was actually famous for making Bloody Marys on the skunk train, to the point where someone walked in Nevada's depot and goes, "You're the guy who got my wife drunk on the skunk train."
It's funny what you can become known for. So,
it is.
It's right. So, but now you went back east, so after that, right?
I did go back east. I have a lot of good friends back east. During the pandemic, I helped a few other railroads out. Towards the end of the pandemic, 2021. End of like closures, not the pandemic was still going on, but end of all the closing. I worked for Maine Narrow Gauge and helped them get reopened as Portland dropped all the restrictions, and we're running trains 7 days a week, carrying about 400 people a day on a little 2-foot gauge train.
Okay.
I've done some work for the Western Maryland and the last little fundraising pushes for 1309. Got to see that last month out at Western Maryland. Wes Hines, the executive director, is one of my best friends.
Oh, cool.
And so we don't go a day without texting each other. And lo and behold, Western Railway Museum reached out of the blue, actually, and said, "Hey, do you want to be executive director of us? We are looking for someone with train experience. We don't want someone without train experience because they kind of need to know how all these things work and the people who work around these things, because railroad museums are different than many other museums. They're not art museums. They're not stuff where it's just static displays a lot of times. We're operating stuff and it's dangerous and you need to know about them." And so I talked with a lot of my friends, and very supportive community. Everyone from Wes, who was my best friend, to Jim Wren, actually were references for this job. And so that's how I ended up here.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what we see here, because I've been here a number of times and something tells me that we're going to see stuff that I haven't seen yet. This is Western Pacific number 94. This is a 10-wheeler that's been here for a long time. And this is one of the things that I really like to see when I come here. Inside these car barns like this, it's guaranteed to stay in a state of preservation that doesn't get worse. And this is one of the really cool things here at the Western Railway Museum. They have dozens of pieces of equipment in this barn that I'm standing in that you need to come and see, because this is like the preservationist dream to have a facility like this. And something I want to mention, come with me real quick. You don't realize how big these things are until you stand next to it like this. This is a really big 460. Most of the 460s that I've seen are either narrow gauge or just way smaller than this. And if I had to guess, I'm thinking these drivers must be at least 60 inches or more. This is a big engine. So we're in the archives here at the Western Railway Museum, and I've never been in the archives before. This is actually the antechamber before you get into the actual archives. But there's a case over here with a bunch of model trains in it. And then there's this rack full of videos, and look what I found. Would you like me to autograph this for you?
Of course.
I just got a real kick out of that, thought I'd share it on here. All right, just wrapping up here at the Western Railway Museum. It was really great to see Eric again, and this is really funny. As we're here, we walk into the archives, and there's someone I know, Wayne Munger, from the Napa Valley Model Railroad Society, I think they called themselves, or club, I don't remember. That's the layout from Napa that got taken out for a parking lot. I've talked about that on the channel here before, and I'm still a little angry about it, but whatever. And then another guy, Ryan Blake, was back in the archives as well. We know him from, well, originally from the Bay Area Prototype Modelers Meet. He appears on the video I made about that meet in 2017. And he also was on a video that we made. It was an interview where they were trying to get some money to bring a PCC streetcar here to the Western Railway Museum. And they did raise their money, and it's here. So that was kind of cool to see. And then just when we were leaving, I walk outside, and here's my friend Dave Stanley. We have a layout tour of his railroad, the Murata Belt out in Murata. So we talked to him for a few minutes. So it's one of those things where you never know who you'll run into. But more importantly, it was great to see Eric again, and I think that this museum is in good hands with him as the director. He has a lot of great plans that we talked about off camera, and we did a great video here today that I'm looking forward to putting together and sharing with you sometime soon here on the channel. So, good day overall. On April 9th, I hung out with some friends, going to 2 layouts as well as the SBHRS. It was a great time, but I didn't do any videos of it because I was intent on just having fun hanging out that day. On the 11th, I saw Alvin Ho. He came over to pick up some stuff that I had for him. Now, you may remember Alvin. He was on N-Scale Friday a few times showing off models that he built or modified, and also sharing 3D prints of detail parts, signal towers, and vehicles, that kind of thing. While he was here, I talked to him about my long-distance Amtrak train project. Since he's one of the best N-scale model railroaders I know, I thought he might have some ideas about lighting up my Amtrak coaches. So let me back up for a minute here. I started a project in, I think it was 2020, that was building a long-distance Amtrak train in N-scale. I released 2 parts in that series that showed how to add DCC to the locomotives, which is a pair of P42 DCs from Kato. Do you remember that? I used the new Soundtracks decoders that had just come out at that time to add sound and working ditch lights to one of the locomotives, and I added working marker lights to the other one in addition to sound and working ditch lights, because the second decoder had more functions. Well, that project kind of stalled out because I wanted to light up the coaches, but I didn't want to use the lighting kits that were available at the time because I'd seen them on other people's models, and I didn't really like the way the lights would flicker as the train rolled down the track. So that led me to ask for some help from friends about how to light up the coaches in a way that would use track power without flickering. So to make a long story a little shorter, I got help from my friend Seth, who knows about electronic stuff, but the way it was done seemed to me like it took up too much space in the car, and it was still a little flickery. So I kind of put that project on the back burner at that time. And I wanted to give you the backstory because some viewers have actually made comments asking about part 3, where I light up the coaches. That's what's going on with part 3. It's been sitting on the back burner since I got that first coach lit up. But after talking to Alvin, I think I can revisit the project sometime soon and wrap it up. I just need to get a parts list and a little more information from him before I can finish tackling that project. But it will happen. On the 16th, John Wiley came over to the intergalactic headquarters here to put the finishing touches on the video he shot at Soundrail in March. That ties in with what happened on the 20th. That was the 3rd Wednesday of the month, which means we went live with the next episode of Talking Trains. Our guests this time were Brian Moore, whose layout tour video appeared the weekend before the live stream, and the same John Wiley I just mentioned. Brian talked about his Guadalupe sub layout, and John talked about Soundrail. And during that show, I played a little preview of the video he shot while he was up there. We had a great time talking to both guests, as usual, and it was great to catch up with Michelle. I like doing the live stream on a regular schedule because it gives me a chance to catch up with her. I sometimes wonder how Michelle has the energy it takes to be as busy as she is all the time. But then again, when you do things you enjoy a lot, it doesn't really seem like work. So on Sunday the 24th, I got a call from Frank Markovich. Frank is the current PCR president, and he had just come back from the PCR's annual convention that was held on the weekend that had just ended. He said I'd received the President's Award for all the work I do promoting the hobby, including all the work I'd done on the NMRA National Convention last year. And then he came over on Tuesday to present this award, and it's really nice. It's a framed and matted Mike Kotowski painting, and it'll look real good hanging up in my office, but this is something I was not expecting at all, and I don't do what I do for awards, but I want to say it's really nice to be recognized. In turn, I'd like to mention here publicly that the award I got was deserved by a lot of other people as well, the least of whom isn't our top secret producer here. So thanks very much for the recognition, Frank, and everyone else who notices the efforts being put forth here. I appreciate everyone's support, and like I said a few minutes ago, when you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't seem so much like work, even though it is. Hi, it's me again, and I'm doing something today. I'm going to an op session at Dave Loveless's R&D. This is a layout that depicts the Southern Pacific in and around Watsonville, Gilroy, Santa Cruz, Monterey, that area. And I've been here a couple of times now, maybe 3? I don't remember now. But we've done timetable and train order, and we've done basically what he referred to as self-dispatching, which is just communicating with each other and making sure no one has collisions. And today we're doing something different. Today we're doing track warrants. And I don't think I've ever done track warrants before, so this should be interesting to see how he does it here. And I'll have some comments later on when it's all over. So let's go have some fun. So my first job was a beat train. I had to go over the entire length of the lower level, pick up beat cars. And so I'm picking up this new job, which is a local that works the Monterey and Ord areas. And all the instructions are right here. So I ask a lot of dumb questions, and usually people point to the instructions. So I'm going to read the instructions first this time. Try to make sure I understand what I'm supposed to do. All right, so I just finished up with the second job that I did here today. The first job was a sugar beet train that was already halfway done. And that's something maybe to note, that in places that do operating sessions like what Dave does here, if the job's not done when the layout gets shut down, then the next time you run an op session, you pick it up where it was left off. That's what the beat train was. I just had to take a train and pick up a bunch of beat cars on my way back to, in this case, Watsonville Junction. And the second job was called the Watsonville to Ord and Monterey turn, I guess, or local. And that one was a bit of a challenge. I've never run that job here before. And basically what it entailed was I had to take a train out of Watsonville Junction, go up to Ord, and then switch a bunch of stuff. I had setouts and pickups to do there, and then go to Monterey and do setouts and pickups there. And again, this is one of those jobs that if you don't know tricks, which I learned as I did it, either learning from doing or learning from someone making the suggestion, it would be a lot harder to do. So the next time I come here and operate, I think I'm going to want to try that Monterey and Fort Ord train again, because it was fun. And I could see where after having done it and having a strategy for next time, it'll be even more fun. So that's it for today, and we'll see what happens next time. So as you can see, we've been doing quite a lot of stuff around here. The operating sessions have been particularly fun and educational. I found out this week that the Sacramento Model Railroad Historical Society is having an open house event on the 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I also want to remind you that the Sparky 107 YouTube meet and greet in Strasburg, Pennsylvania is happening in a couple weeks. If you can go, you should get out there and have some fun. For more details about this event, go to the YouTube channel Sparky 107 and look for videos about it. It's sure to be a great time. I ran a poll this past week on the YouTube channel's community page, asking viewers if they prefer critical product reviews that judge and rate models, or product spotlights that show what comes out of the box and leaves the judging to the viewer. You may recall I stopped doing critical reviews about 3 or 4 years ago in favor of doing spotlights. I realized after producing critical reviews for years that it's difficult to be as objective as you should be without someone to keep you honest and consistent. I also had somewhat of an issue with assuming that people should listen to me or that I know better than anyone else, when I know the truth is that I get things wrong sometimes. My attitude has been that the spotlights are produced well enough that the viewers can see what came out of the box and judge for themselves if the model that they're looking at on the screen meets whatever standards they have in order to want one. Part of this reasoning has to do with the fact that not every model will be exactly the same, and minor adjustments like changing out couplers or adjusting the coupler height or swapping out for metal wheels, that kind of stuff. It's all normal model railroader stuff that we're all capable of. And I also don't like the assumption that I'm some kind of expert who's pretentious enough to think I should be telling other people what to think about a model, or criticizing a manufacturer that just spent tens of thousands of dollars to bring a product to market just because the one I have is one of probably hundreds or even thousands of pieces in a run, and it happened to have something minor that's easy to fix wrong with it. Discrepancies happen when you're dealing with the sheer volume that these manufacturers deal with, even with the best quality control. In any case, the poll turned out to be about 60% in favor of product spotlights. So I guess the majority of viewers also figure that they're smart enough to decide for themselves. So that brings us to the catch of the month. I got a whole bunch of photos from Lucas Woodward, so let's talk about those first. The first photo is of the Climax number 1694 on the inspection pit at Menzies Creek on Wednesday, March 10th. This second photo is of 1694 just prior to departure for Emerald. The next 3 photos are just over an hour later, having safely arrived at Emerald. The following morning, the locomotive was placed on a semi-truck to be moved to Dandenong, then to Newport on Friday morning. The fourth photo is on Friday afternoon, with the Climax safely sitting on the trailer at Newport Workshops, next to a Melbourne Tramways board bus and Steam Rail Victoria's oil-burning R-Class Hudson R711. The fifth photo is on Sunday, March 13th, and shows Steam Rail's Y-Class Y112 and Mornington Railway's K163 double-heading on the demonstration track for the public. This next photo is from that same evening with K153 disguised as K100 and returned to what the K-Class looked like back in 1922 when they were first built. The last photo is of the Climax with an even more dramatic backdrop behind it. The locomotive returned to Menzies Creek on Wednesday, March 16th. Alvin Shakalaka Bro Gilbert sends in these shots from Salt Lake City, Utah. This is a Union Pacific local job, and if you look at the last shot, you can see that they still use a caboose on this job. When's the last time you saw that? And finally, Ethan Doty sends the following shots from the Western Pacific Museum in Portola. This is a view from the fireman's seat of 1503, looking at number 165 after it made its first run under steam on April 20th. Also from the same day, here's 165 partway out of the shop as it's building up steam pressure. Ethan tells me that the 165 is coming along nicely. If you have a catch of the month you'd like to share, please send it to podcast@tsgmultimedia.com. Be sure you own the shot and include the what's, when's, and where's of the shots you send in. And now for this month's program schedule. Next Friday, oh no, it's Friday the 13th, and I'll have a product spotlight for you. On the 14th, it's Wiley's Wanderings, the full version of John Wiley's program about SoundRail 2022. Then on the 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, it's the next episode of TSG Live Talking Trains. Michelle's going to be traveling this month, so I'm having a very special guest co-host. Tune in to find out who it is. On the 20th, it's another episode of N-Scale Friday. Then on the 21st, we have Chasing Trains. Epic Trip 2022 Part 9, This is the second to the last episode from our big trip last year, and it features trains on Tehachapi, so you definitely don't want to miss that one. On Friday the 27th, we have another product spotlight. And finally, on May 28th, TSG Live Model Railroading returns, with Mike Jordan talking about handling reefer cars in op sessions. Sounds like a strange topic, but I think you'll find it interesting. So that's it for this time. I'd like to remind you that you're always welcome to join the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. It's as cheap as $2 a month, and it gets you sneak peeks of upcoming features without any ads. It's at patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. So as the weather continues to get better, the events are also getting better. So get out there and have some fun, and I'll see you next time. I'm standing in front of Western Pacific number 93. This is a 10-wheeler.
94.
94.
I'm glad you're here. I thought I'm standing in front of...
I gotta stop.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Is it still going?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm standing in front of Western Pacific... Stop it.